The communication device on Matriarch Yuna's desk flashed red, pulling her attention from the stack of trade agreements she had been reviewing. Red meant emergency. Red meant something had gone terribly wrong. Her long fingers, pale blue like the rest of her skin, moved quickly across the control panel. "Mother." The voice was Hana's, but it sounded broken, frightened in a way Yuna had never heard before. "Hana?"
"Where are you?"
"Your diplomatic mission was not supposed to return for another week." Yuna stood from her chair, her heart racing in a way that Veltharans rarely experienced. They prided themselves on emotional control, on the stillness of mind that came with their advanced evolution. "I am coming home. We were attacked. Everyone else is dead. Everyone except—" There was a pause, static filling the silence. "Mother, a human saved me. He is bringing me home. A human." Yuna felt something cold settle in her chest. Humans were the laborers of the galaxy, the mercenaries who fought for coin, the rough voices in cantinas telling violent stories. They were useful, certainly, but they were not the kind of beings one brought to Velthara Prime, especially not to the royal palace. "I will prepare for your arrival," Yuna said, keeping her voice steady. "Come directly to the palace courtyard. I will have medical teams waiting." 2 hours later, Yuna stood in the courtyard with her guard captain and a dozen soldiers. The sky above was a brilliant purple, dotted with the 3 moons that made Velthara Prime so beautiful. But Yuna was not looking at the sky. She was watching a ship descend, and it was not a Veltharan vessel. It was a cargo hauler, old and battered, with scorch marks along its hull and what looked like weapons fire damage across the port side. The ship landed with a heavy thud that would have made any Veltharan pilot ashamed. The ramp lowered with a grinding sound of damaged hydraulics, and then Hana appeared. Yuna's daughter looked like she had been through war. Her formal diplomatic robes were torn and stained with blood. Her face, normally the same pale blue as all Veltharans, was bruised and scratched. She stumbled down the ramp and Yuna rushed forward, catching her daughter in her arms. "Mother, he saved me," Hana cried, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. Everyone else was killed, and he came. He came when no one else would. Behind Hana, a figure emerged from the ship. He was human, that much was clear immediately. Humans were shorter than Veltharans, built more solid and compact. This one had dark hair that fell across his forehead, and his face was covered in dirt and dried blood. He wore simple clothes, a pilot's jacket and pants that had seen better days. His eyes were dark, scanning the courtyard with the kind of awareness that soldiers had. Not merchants. He stopped at the bottom of the ramp, keeping his distance from the Veltharan guards who had their weapons half raised. His hands were visible, empty, held slightly away from his body in a gesture that said he meant no threat. "Are you the mother?" he asked in accented but clear Galactic Standard. His voice was rough, tired. "I am Matriarch Yuna of House Brightstar," she replied, still holding Hana close. "You saved my daughter?" The human nodded. "Name's Jiwoo. I was running cargo through the outer reaches when I picked up a distress signal. Found her ship under attack by Krithian raiders. Got her out before they could finish the job." It was such a simple way to describe what must have been violence and chaos. Yuna studied the human more carefully. He had injuries she could see now. A deep cut across his left arm that had been roughly bandaged, burns on his hands. The way he stood suggested broken ribs, though he was trying to hide the pain. "Bring him inside," Yuna commanded. "Medical attention for both of them. And someone send for the council." "We need to hear what happened." Jiwoo shook his head. "I don't need to come inside. Just need to refuel and repair my ship, then I will be on my way." "You saved the daughter of a matriarch," Yuna said, studying him. "Such an act cannot go unrewarded. Name your price." "Credits? Territory? A ship better than that wreck you arrived in?" The human looked uncomfortable. "I didn't do it for a reward. Your daughter needed help. That's all." This response silenced the courtyard. Veltharans understood trade, reciprocity, the exchange of favors and debts. No one did something for nothing, especially not humans who were known for their greed and self-interest. Yet this Jiwoo stood there, refusing payment, wanting only to leave. "Your ship is too damaged for immediate departure," the guard captain observed. "It will take at least 3 days to repair." Jiwoo sighed, running a hand through his dark hair. "Fine, 3 days. But I stay with my ship." "You will stay in the palace," Yuna said firmly. "You saved my daughter's life. You are a guest of House Brightstar, whether you wish it or not. Guards will escort you to quarters where you can rest and receive medical treatment. Mother, please. Hana said softly. He does not trust easily. The galaxy has not been kind to his people. Yuna looked at her daughter, surprised. In all her years, she had never heard Hana speak with such understanding about humans. They were taught from childhood that humans were primitive, that their violence made them useful but not respectable. Yet here was Hana defending this rough pilot as if he were a noble. Very well, Yuna said. Jiwoo, you may choose. Stay in the palace as our honored guest or remain with your ship, but you will be under guard either way for your own protection. There are those on this world who would not approve of a human walking freely here. Jiwoo looked at Hana, and something passed between them, some understanding born of shared trauma. Finally, he nodded. I will stay in the palace, but I keep my things with me. Agreed, Yuna said. As guards led Jiwoo away, and medical staff took Hana for treatment, Yuna stood in the courtyard and watched the damaged human ship sitting there like an ugly scar on the pristine landing pad. Everything about this situation felt wrong, felt dangerous. Humans were not heroes in Veltharan stories. They were the soldiers who followed orders, the mercenaries who killed for money, the rough voices in the dark corners of space stations. Yet this human had saved Hana when trained Veltharan warriors had failed. He had asked for no reward, sought no advantage. He wanted only to leave. What kind of human was Jiwoo? And why did his presence make Yuna feel like something fundamental was about to change? She looked up at the purple sky and felt the weight of questions she could not yet answer. Jiwoo stood at the window of his assigned quarters, looking out at the city below. Velthara Prime was beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. Crystal towers rose into the purple sky, connected by bridges of light that seemed to have no physical structure. Gardens floated in the air, suspended by technology he could not begin to understand. Everything was clean, elegant, and completely alien. His room was larger than his entire ship. The walls were some kind of living material that glowed softly, responding to his presence. The furniture adjusted itself to his body when he sat. Even the air smelled expensive, like flowers he had no names for. It made him uncomfortable. He was a cargo pilot, a former soldier trying to forget a war. He did not belong in palaces. A soft tone sounded at his door. Before he could respond, 2 Veltharan guards stepped inside, taking positions on either side of the entrance. Then Hana entered, carrying a tray of food. She looked better now. The medical technology of her people had healed most of her visible injuries. She wore clean robes of silver and blue, and her long white hair was pulled back in an elegant style, but her eyes still held shadows that no technology could erase. I brought you food, she said, setting the tray on a table. The servants were afraid to enter. They think you might be dangerous. Jiwoo almost smiled. Smart servants. Hana sat down, gesturing for him to join her. You should eat. Our medical staff said you refused treatment beyond basic first aid. I have had worse, Jiwoo said, but he sat and looked at the food. It was colorful and artfully arranged, nothing like the protein bars and recycled nutrients he usually ate. Thank you. They sat in silence for a moment. The guards stood like statues, watching Jiwoo with expressions that mixed fear and suspicion. Can we speak privately? Jiwoo asked, glancing at the guards. Hana spoke to them in her own language, her voice firm. They looked unhappy but stepped outside. The door closed, though Jiwoo suspected they were listening. You did not have to stay, Hana said softly. You could have demanded they repair your ship immediately and left. Your mother wanted me to stay. Seemed rude to refuse. You are not comfortable here. No, Jiwoo admitted. I am not. Your people look at me like I am an animal that might bite them. I see it in their eyes. They think I am stupid, violent, barely better than the raiders who attacked you. Hana looked down at her hands. I was taught the same things about humans. From childhood, we learned that your species is primitive, strong but not intelligent, useful for labor and war but lacking in culture or honor. I believed these things without question. And now? Jiwoo asked. Now I know better. Hana met his eyes. I saw you fight the raiders, Jiwoo. I saw you kill 6 of them to reach my ship. But I also saw you cry afterward. You sat in the cockpit of your ship and you wept for them, for the lives you had taken. even though they would have killed us both without hesitation. Jiwoo felt heat rise to his face. You were not supposed to see that. Why did you cry for them? Hana asked. They were trying to kill us. Because killing is not easy, Jiwoo said quietly. Not for me. Not anymore. I was a soldier once, in a war between humans and the Gallian Empire. I did terrible things because I was ordered to do them. When the war ended, I swore I would never kill again unless I had no choice. Those raiders gave me no choice, but that does not mean I can forget their faces. Hana was quiet for a long moment. A Veltharan warrior would never admit such feelings. They would see it as weakness. Maybe it is weakness, Jiwoo said. Or maybe your people have been strong for so long that they have forgotten what violence actually costs. Before Hana could respond, the door opened again. A Veltharan male entered, tall and elegant with robes that marked him as nobility. His expression when he looked at Jiwoo was one of pure contempt. So this is the human, he said in Galactic Standard, his accent perfect and cold. I am Tai-hyun, High Counselor of the Veltharan Confederacy. I came to see the creature that supposedly saved our princess. Jiwoo stood slowly, keeping his face neutral. Jiwoo, cargo pilot. Yes, I read the report, Taehyun said, walking around Jiwoo like he was examining livestock. You killed 6 Krithian raiders. Impressive for a human. Though I wonder why a simple cargo pilot was so skilled in combat. I wonder why Krithian raiders knew exactly where to find a Veltharan diplomatic convoy, Jiwoo replied. The room went very still. Taehyun's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that someone told them where to look, Jiwoo said calmly. Raiders do not attack diplomatic ships by accident. Those ships have too much security, too many safeguards. Unless someone gave them information about routes and schedules. You dare accuse the Veltharan government of treason? Taehyun's voice was dangerous now. I accuse no one, Jiwoo said. I only observe facts. I am a simple human after all, barely sentient according to your schools. What do I know? Hana stood up, placing herself slightly between them. Counselor Taehyun, Jiwoo is our guest. My mother has declared it. Your mother is too trusting, Taehyun said, but he stepped back. This human should be grateful we allow him to breathe our air. His kind exists to serve civilized species, not sit in palaces pretending to be equals. Jiwoo felt anger rise in his chest, hot and familiar. He had heard such words before from the Gallians who had enslaved human colonies, from the merchants who thought humans were just clever animals. He swallowed the anger down. May I ask? The counselor a question? Jiwoo said, his voice carefully polite. Taehyun looked annoyed but nodded. Your military doctrine, Jiwoo said. It relies heavily on your psychic abilities for coordination, correct? Ship crews link their minds for faster response times. Ground forces share tactical information telepathically. Of course, Taehyun said. It is what makes us superior. But if an enemy could block or disrupt that telepathy, your entire military structure would collapse, Jiwoo continued. Individual Veltharan soldiers are trained to work as part of a linked group. Take away that link, and they become confused, disorganized. I saw it when the raiders attacked. Your security teams could not coordinate once their telepathic network was jammed. They died because they did not know how to fight as individuals. The room was silent. Hana was staring at Jiwoo with wide eyes. Taehyun's face had gone pale. You observed all of this during the attack? Taehyun asked slowly. I observed many things, Jiwoo said. Humans cannot read minds, so we learn to read everything else. Body language, tactical patterns, technological weaknesses. We survive by paying attention to what others miss. Taehyun looked at Jiwoo for a long moment, and something shifted in his expression. The contempt was still there, but now it was mixed with something else. Concern maybe, or fear. I see, Taehyun said finally. Perhaps humans are more observant than we give them credit for. That can be either useful or dangerous, depending on the human. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Enjoy your stay in the palace, Jiwoo, but remember you are here because we allow it. Nothing more. When he was gone, Hana let out a breath she had been holding. That was not wise. Tae-hyun is powerful, and he does not forget insults. He insulted first, Ji-woo said. I just showed him that humans are not as stupid as he thinks. Sometimes that is the best way to earn respect. Or make enemies, Hana said, but she was almost smiling. Ji-woo sat back down, suddenly tired. Your people see humans as tools, Hana, useful but not worthy of real respect. Maybe it is time some of you learned differently. Hana sat beside him, quiet for a moment. You are teaching me, she said softly. Every day since you saved me, I learned that everything I was taught about humans was wrong. I just hope others can learn as well. Ji-woo looked out the window at the beautiful alien city and wondered if hope was enough. The summons came at dawn. 2 guards appeared at Ji-woo's door, their expressions carefully neutral. Matriarch Yuna wished to speak with him privately. It was not a request. Ji-woo followed them through corridors of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Veltharan servants and officials stopped to stare as he passed. Some whispered behind their hands. Others simply watched with the same expression one might give a wild animal walking through their home. Yuna's private office was smaller than Ji-woo had expected, but more personal. The walls displayed moving images of what he assumed were family memories. Hana as a child, learning to use her psychic abilities. A male Veltharan who must have been Hana's father, now gone. Other faces, other moments, all precious enough to preserve. Yuna sat behind a desk made of dark wood, something that must have been imported from another world. She gestured for Ji-woo to sit across from her. The guards left, and the door sealed behind them with a soft sound that told Ji-woo the room was now completely private. Thank you for coming, Yuna said. Her voice was formal, but her eyes were studying him with an intensity that made Ji-woo uncomfortable. Did I have a choice? He asked. No, Yuna admitted. But I appreciate you not making this difficult. They sat in silence for a moment. Ji-woo noticed that Yuna looked tired in a way that expensive Veltharan technology could not hide. She was a mother who had nearly lost her daughter, and that pain was universal across species. Why did you save Hana? Yuna asked finally. Because she needed saving. That is not an answer, Yuna said, leaning forward. I have spent 2 days reviewing reports about humans. Your species does nothing without expecting something in return. You fight for money. You trade for advantage. Your entire history is one of conflict and self-interest. Yet you risked your life for my daughter and ask for nothing. Why? Ji-woo was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. May I tell you a story about humans, matriarch? Yuna nodded. 500 years ago, humanity discovered faster than light travel. Ji-woo began. We went into space expecting to find empty worlds we could colonize. Instead, we found the Gallian Empire. They were old, powerful, and they saw humans as a resource to be exploited. They invaded Earth, enslaved our colonies, and treated us as animals that could speak. Yuna listened without interrupting. The war lasted 80 years, Ji-woo continued. Humans fought with everything we had. We were not as advanced as the Gallians. We did not have their technology or their numbers. But we learned to be stubborn. We learned to fight dirty. We learned that sometimes the only way to win is to refuse to lose, no matter the cost. And you won? Yuna asked. Eventually, Ji-woo said. But the cost was terrible. Billions died. Entire worlds were destroyed. By the time the Gallians finally withdrew, humanity was broken. We had won our freedom, but we had lost so much of ourselves. Why are you telling me this? Yuna asked. Because after the war I was 25 years old and I had killed more people than I could count. Ji-woo said, his voice flat. I had followed orders, done my duty, and I hated what I had become. When the fighting ended, I looked at what humanity had turned into and I made a choice. I would not add more violence to the galaxy unless I had no other option. But you did have an option, Yuna pointed out. When you heard Hana's distress call, you could have ignored it. You were under no obligation to help. No, Ji-woo agreed. But I heard someone calling for help, and I remembered all the times during the war when no one came to help us. I remembered watching my friends die while the so-called civilized species of the galaxy looked the other way, because humans were not worth saving. Ji-woo met Yuna's eyes directly. You ask why I saved Hana. I saved her because I refused to be like the people who let humans die. I saved her because she is someone's daughter, someone's friend, and she deserved to live. I saved her because it was the right thing to do, and humans have learned the hard way that doing the right thing matters more than doing the profitable thing. Yuna was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was softer. We have misunderstood your species. Yes, Jiwoo said simply. Before Yuna could respond, an urgent signal flashed on her desk. She touched it and a holographic display appeared showing a Veltheran military officer. Matriarch, we have a situation, the officer said. Another convoy has been attacked in the outer reaches. This one had survivors. Yuna stood immediately. I am coming to the command center. Come, Jiwoo. This concerns you as well. The command center was a large room filled with displays showing ship movements, communication channels, and tactical data. A dozen Veltheran officers worked at stations, their minds linked in the telepathic network that Jiwoo had mentioned to Taehyun. When Yuna and Jiwoo entered, several officers looked up with expressions of surprise and disapproval. Report, Yuna commanded. The lead officer brought up a display. A diplomatic transport carrying Senator Mira was attacked 6 hours ago. The raiders used the same tactics as the attack on Princess Hana: telepathic jammers, precise knowledge of security protocols, and overwhelming force. Senator Mira survived by hiding in an escape pod. She was recovered an hour ago. What did she report? Yuna asked. She said the raiders were specifically targeting Veltheran nobles, the officer said. They ignored the crew and focused entirely on reaching the passengers. They had detailed information about the ship's layout and security systems. Information that should have been classified. Jiwoo stepped forward, studying the tactical display. May I? He asked Yuna. She nodded and he moved to the controls. The Veltheran officers watched him with suspicion as he manipulated the display, pulling up ship routes and attack data. Look here, Jiwoo said, pointing to patterns on the screen. Both attacks happened in areas where your military patrol schedules had gaps. Both convoys were carrying high-value political targets. Both had their telepathic networks jammed before the attacks began. This is not random piracy. This is assassination. We are aware of that, one of the officers said coldly. The question is who is providing the raiders with information? Someone on your council, Jiwoo said bluntly. Someone with access to diplomatic schedules, security protocols, and military patrol patterns. Someone who wants certain nobles dead. The room erupted in angry voices. Veltharans did not like being told that one of their own might be a traitor. Yuna raised a hand for silence. The human is correct, she said. We have a traitor among us. Until we find them, no one in this government is safe. She turned to Jiwoo. You have military experience. You understand tactics and security. I have a request to make. Jiwoo already knew what she was going to ask. He could see it in her eyes. I want you to serve as Hana's personal bodyguard, Yuna said. Your methods are unconventional, but they work. My daughter trusts you, and right now you may be the only person in this palace she can trust completely. I am not a soldier anymore, Jiwoo said. I left that life behind. I know, Yuna said. But someone is trying to kill my daughter, and conventional security has already failed once. I am asking you, as a mother, to keep her safe until we find the traitor. Jiwoo looked at the tactical displays, at the patterns of attacks, at the faces of Veltheran officers who thought he was too stupid to understand their complicated politics. He thought about Hana, who had looked at him without contempt, who had learned to see humans as people rather than tools. If I do this, Jiwoo said slowly, I do it my way. No interference from your guards. No questions about my methods. I need complete authority over her security. Agreed, Yuna said immediately. And when this is over, you repair my ship and let me leave. Jiwoo added. No more honors, no more ceremonies. I am not a hero. I am just a pilot who wants to go home. Agreed, Yuna said again. Jiwoo sighed, feeling the weight of old responsibilities settling back onto his shoulders. Then I will do it. But understand something, Matriarch. Humans do not fight like Veltharans. We are not elegant or honorable when lives are at stake. We are practical, paranoid, and sometimes cruel. If I am going to keep Hana alive, I will do things that will shock your people. Can you accept that? Yuna met his eyes. If it keeps my daughter alive, I will accept anything. Then we start now, Jiwoo said, turning to the officers. I need a complete list of everyone with access to diplomatic schedules. I need sensor logs from both attack sites, and I need to speak with Senator Mira immediately. Someone on your council is a traitor. and we are going to find them before they can try again." The Veltharan officers looked at their matriarch, waiting for her to overrule this human who was giving them orders. Instead, Yuna nodded. "You heard him," she said. "Full cooperation. Jiwoo is now in command of the investigation into the attacks." As the officers reluctantly began following his instructions, Jiwoo felt the familiar cold clarity of tactical thinking settle over him. He had not wanted to be a soldier again. But Hana needed protection, and sometimes wanting did not matter. Sometimes you did what was necessary even when it hurt. Hana stood in the grand ceremonial hall surrounded by hundreds of Veltharan nobles dressed in their finest robes. The ceremony was meant to honor those who had died in the recent attacks, a show of unity and strength. But Jiwoo had argued against it, saying it was too dangerous, too exposed. Yuna had overruled him. The government could not appear weak. Jiwoo stood 3 meters behind Hana, wearing clothing that Veltharan tailors had made for him. He looked uncomfortable in the formal outfit, his dark eyes constantly scanning the crowd, the balconies, the entrances. He had wanted to cancel the ceremony. When that failed, he had insisted on checking every guest, every server, every guard. The Veltharan security forces had been insulted by his paranoia. Now, as Hana began her speech about honor and remembrance, Jiwoo felt something wrong. He could not explain it, could not point to any specific threat. But his instincts, trained by years of war, were screaming at him. He touched the communication device in his ear. "All positions, report." The responses came back normal. Guards at every entrance, snipers on the upper balconies, energy shields active around the hall. Everything according to protocol. But something was wrong. Hana was halfway through her speech when Jiwoo saw it. A server, moving through the crowd with a tray of drinks, but his movements were wrong. Too precise, too military. Jiwoo's hand moved to the weapon hidden under his jacket, but he was too far away. The server dropped his tray and pulled out a small device. Before Jiwoo could shout a warning, light flashed and Hana's psychic guards collapsed, their telepathic link shattered by a jammer. Then the server pulled a weapon and aimed at Hana. Jiwoo moved. He had been a soldier once, and soldiers learned to act before thinking. He crossed the distance in seconds, throwing himself at Hana just as the weapon fired. The energy bolt meant for her chest hit Jiwoo's shoulder instead, and pain exploded through his body like fire. He crashed into Hana, knocking her to the ground as more attackers revealed themselves. They were Veltharan commandos, their faces covered but their movements showing professional military training. They had been disguised as guards, as servants, waiting for the moment when the telepathic network went down. "Stay down," Jiwoo shouted at Hana, positioning himself over her as energy bolts flashed overhead. The ceremonial hall erupted into chaos. Nobles screamed and ran. The Veltharan guards, confused without their telepathic coordination, fired wildly. Jiwoo counted 6 attackers, all moving with purpose toward Hana's position. He pulled his weapon with his good arm and returned fire. One attacker went down, then another. But there were too many, and Jiwoo was already wounded. His shoulder was useless, blood soaking through his formal clothes. "Jiwoo!" Hana's voice was terrified beneath him. "Listen to me," he said, his voice steady despite the pain. "When I move, you run for the east door. Do not stop. Do not look back. Understand?" "I cannot leave you." "You can and you will," Jiwoo said. He fired twice more, dropping a third attacker. "Your mother made me promise to keep you alive. I keep my promises." Before Hana could argue, Jiwoo rolled off her and fired a full burst at the remaining attackers, drawing their attention. "Run, now!" Hana ran. Jiwoo provided covering fire, his vision starting to blur from blood loss. He saw her reach the door, saw loyal guards pull her to safety. Then something hit him hard in the chest and he went down. The world became distant, sounds muffled. He could hear shouting, more weapons fire. The attackers were being overwhelmed by Veltharan reinforcements, now that they had lost the element of surprise. But it was too late for Jiwoo. He could feel his life draining away. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was Hana's face, screaming his name. Jiwoo woke to soft light and the smell of antiseptic. He was in a medical facility, surrounded by equipment that hummed and beeped. His shoulder and chest were wrapped in bandages that glowed with healing technology. Everything hurt. "You are awake." Yuna's voice came from beside the bed. She looked exhausted, her elegant features marked by worry. "Hana," Jiwoo's voice was rough. "Safe, thanks to you." Yuna reached out and touched his hand, a gesture of intimacy that surprised him. You threw yourself in front of an energy weapon to save her. The doctor said another few centimeters and the shot would have killed you instantly. The attackers? Jiwoo asked. Dead or captured, Yuna said. They were Veltharan commandos, as you suspected. Professional soldiers, well-equipped and well-trained. They had been planted in the palace security weeks ago, waiting for the right moment. Taehyun, Jiwoo said. It was not a question. Yuna nodded slowly. We found evidence in his private files. He has been working with the Krithian Dominion for years, selling them information about our military and government. The attacks were meant to eliminate political rivals, anyone who opposed his plans for expansion and war. Where is he now? Jiwoo asked. He realized we were closing in on him, Yuna said. He attempted a coup 3 hours ago, using military forces loyal to him. They have seized the eastern wing of the palace and are demanding I abdicate in favor of Taehyun's appointed council. Jiwoo tried to sit up, but pain stopped him. You need to evacuate. I will not abandon my home, Yuna said firmly. Reinforcements are coming, but they are hours away. Until then, we hold what we can. Let me help, Jiwoo said. You can barely move, Yuna protested. I have fought in worse condition, Jiwoo said. It was true. During the war with the Galleons, he had once held a position for 16 hours with a broken leg. Your guards do not know how to fight without their telepathic network. Taehyun is using jammers. They are confused, disorganized. Let me teach them. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she touched a control, and the medical restraints released. The doctors will be furious with me. Add it to the list, Jiwoo said, carefully standing. His legs shook but held. 20 minutes later, Jiwoo stood in a secured conference room with 30 Veltharan guards. They looked at him with expressions ranging from skepticism to desperation. Without their telepathic coordination, they were just individuals with weapons, unsure how to work together. Listen carefully, Jiwoo said, his voice cutting through their worried whispers. You have been trained to fight as one mind, sharing information instantly. That is your strength, but also your weakness. Taehyun knows this. That is why he uses jammers. How do we fight without our link? One guard asked. The same way humans always fight, Jiwoo said. With hand signals, verbal commands, and trust in the person next to you. You learn to read body language instead of thoughts. You practice simple tactics until they become automatic. He moved to a display showing the palace layout. Taehyun controls the eastern wing. He has maybe 200 soldiers, but they are split between holding territory and preparing for assault. We have fewer numbers but better position. We make them come to us through corridors we choose, through kill zones we prepare. For the next hour, Jiwoo taught them. Simple things. How to move in pairs with each person covering a direction. How to use corners and doorways for protection. How to communicate with gestures when silence was needed. How to set up crossfire positions. The Veltharan guards learned quickly. They were skilled soldiers, just untrained in individual combat. Jiwoo showed them how to turn their elegant palace into a fortress, using furniture as barricades, using the crystal architecture to create confusing reflections, using servant passages for flanking movements. You are turning our home into a battlefield, one guard said, sounding disturbed. Your home is already a battlefield, Jiwoo replied. I am just teaching you how to survive it. Hana appeared in the doorway wearing armor now instead of formal robes. Let me help. Absolutely not, Jiwoo said immediately. This is my home, Hana said firmly. My people are dying to protect it. I will not hide while others fight. Jiwoo looked at Yuna, who had entered behind her daughter. The matriarch's expression was conflicted, but she nodded. Hana is right. The royal family does not hide. Then she stays with me, Jiwoo said. Always. No exceptions. Hana nodded, taking a position beside him. The attack came an hour later. Taehyun's forces pushed hard, trying to break through to the central palace where Yuna had her command center. But Jiwoo's preparations made them pay for every meter. Veltharan guards, working in the small unit tactics he had taught them, turned corridors into death traps. Jiwoo fought despite his injuries, directing the defense from position to position. He was not as fast as he once was, and every movement sent pain through his wounded body. But he had learned long ago to function through pain. Hana stayed close, watching him work. She saw how he thought 3 moves ahead, how he used the palace architecture against the attackers, how he kept his defenders calm with quiet confidence even when the situation looked desperate. You hate this, she said during a brief pause in the fighting. Yes, Jiwoo admitted, checking his weapon. But you are good at it. That does not mean I enjoy it, Jiwoo said. I am good at killing people, Hana. That is not something to be proud of. Before she could respond, his communication device crackled. Reinforcements incoming! Loyal military forces have arrived. Jiwoo allowed himself a moment of relief. They had held long enough. The coup was over. Taehyun was captured trying to escape in a stolen ship. His conspirators surrendered when they realized reinforcements had arrived. The palace was secured. Jiwoo stood in the command center exhausted, and the trial of Taehyun lasted 3 days. Evidence was presented showing years of treason, selling Veltharan secrets to the Krithian Dominion, arranging attacks on political rivals, and finally attempting to overthrow the government. The verdict was unanimous. Taehyun would spend the rest of his life in a rehabilitation facility, his telepathic abilities permanently suppressed. Jiwoo did not attend the trial. He spent those 3 days in the medical facility healing. Veltharan medical technology was impressive, but even it could not instantly repair the damage he had taken. His shoulder would carry scars forever, and the doctors said he would feel pain when it rained. Jiwoo thought that was funny. He already had so many scars that one more did not matter. On the 4th day after the coup, Yuna summoned the entire council to the Grand Hall. The same hall where Jiwoo had saved Hana, now repaired and cleaned. No sign remained of the violence that had happened there. Jiwoo stood before the council, wearing formal clothes again, feeling uncomfortable. Hana stood beside her mother, and both were watching him with expressions he could not read. Jiwoo, Yuna said formally, you have saved my daughter twice. You have exposed a traitor within our government. You have taught our guards new ways to fight and defend. The Veltharan Confederacy owes you a debt that can never be fully repaid. You owe me nothing, Jiwoo said. I did what anyone should do. But not everyone would do it, Yuna replied. That is what makes your actions meaningful. Therefore, the council has voted to offer you full citizenship in the Confederacy, a position in the Royal Guard with the rank of commander, and estates on 3 worlds. Jiwoo was quiet for a moment. I am honored, he said carefully, but I must decline. Shocked whispers ran through the council. Veltharans did not refuse honors. To be offered citizenship was the highest recognition their society could give. You refuse? One council member asked, sounding offended. I am a cargo pilot, Jiwoo explained. I fly between worlds carrying goods and occasionally people. That is the life I chose after the war ended. It is simple, honest, and it does not require me to kill anyone. I cannot give that up, not even for honors and estates. Yuna looked sad but not surprised. We cannot change your mind. No, matriarch, Jiwoo said. But there is one honor I would accept. Name it, Yuna said. An official declaration of friendship between the Veltharan Confederacy and humanity, Jiwoo said. Not as superior and inferior, not as masters and servants, as equals. Let this be the beginning of real understanding between our peoples. The council chamber erupted in debate. Some supported the idea immediately. Others argued that humans were not ready for such recognition. But Yuna raised her hand for silence. The council will vote, she declared. All in favor of establishing formal diplomatic relations with humanity, recognizing them as equals in the community of civilized species? The vote was close, but it passed. Jiwoo felt something tight in his chest loosen. This was better than any personal honor. This was a future where humans would not automatically be dismissed as primitive or violent. It was a beginning. After the ceremony ended, Jiwoo walked through the palace gardens with Hana. The purple sky was clear, and the 3 moons were visible even in daylight. You are really leaving, Hana said. It was not a question. My ship is repaired, Jiwoo said. Better than repaired, actually. Your engineers upgraded systems I did not even know could be improved. I think they felt guilty about how I had been treated when I first arrived. Where will you go? Hana asked. There is a trade route that needs a regular cargo hauler, Jiwoo said. Nothing exciting. Just honest work moving supplies between colonies. They walked in silence for a while, past flowers that bloomed in colors that did not exist on Earth, under trees that hummed with bioluminescent energy. I want to come with you, Hana said suddenly. Jiwoo stopped walking. What? I want to travel to human space, Hana said, her voice determined. I want to learn about your people, your culture, your worlds. I want to be an ambassador, building understanding between our species. But first I need to understand humans, and you are the only one I trust to teach me honestly. Your mother will never allow it, Jiwoo said. My mother has already given permission, Hana replied. I asked her this morning. She said that I have grown more in these past weeks than in years of formal education. She trusts you to keep me safe and to show me truth instead of propaganda. Jiwoo looked at Hana, seeing the determination in her eyes. She was young, but she had survived an attack, witnessed a coup, and watched her entire worldview change. She was not the same sheltered princess who had returned crying to her mother's arms. It will not be comfortable, Jiwoo warned. My ship is small. Human space stations are rough compared to Veltharon cities. You will see poverty, violence, and inequality that your people eliminated centuries ago. Good, Hana said. I need to see reality, not just the beautiful lies we tell ourselves about being superior. Jiwoo smiled despite himself. You sound like a human already. Is that a compliment? Hana asked. Among humans, yes, Jiwoo said. Among Veltharans, probably not. They continued walking. Jiwoo felt strange, lighter somehow. For weeks he had been surrounded by people who saw him as lesser, but Hana saw him as a person, as a teacher, as someone worth learning from. It was a good feeling. When do we leave? Hana asked. Tomorrow morning, Jiwoo said. That gives you tonight to say goodbye to your mother and prepare for a very different kind of life. I am ready, Hana said confidently. That evening, Jiwoo stood in the palace courtyard one last time looking at his ship. It gleamed now, repaired and improved. Veltharan engineers had added new shielding, more efficient engines, and even a second cabin for passengers. It was still his ship, but better. Yuna approached, walking alone without guards for once. She stood beside him looking at the ship. Take care of my daughter, she said softly. I will, Jiwoo promised. She is not like other Veltharans anymore, Yuna continued. She has seen too much, learned too much. She cannot unlearn that humans are people, not tools. It makes her unusual among our kind. Perhaps that is good, Jiwoo said. Perhaps your people need more who think like her. Perhaps, Yuna agreed. She turned to face him directly. I was wrong about humans, Jiwoo. We all were. We saw your violence and assumed you were primitive. We saw your stubbornness and assumed you were stupid. We saw your willingness to do rough work and assumed you had no culture or honor. We were blind, and that blindness nearly cost me my daughter. You are learning, Jiwoo said. That is what matters. Will you return someday? Yuna asked. Maybe, Jiwoo said. If Hana wants to come home. If there is work in this region. The galaxy is large and cargo pilots go where they are needed. Yuna smiled, a rare expression on her usually formal face. The galaxy just became a little smaller, I think. Now that our peoples are talking to each other, distances do not matter as much. She reached out and placed something in Jiwoo's hand. It was a small crystal that pulsed with soft light. A communication device, she explained. Direct line to my private office. If you or Hana ever need anything, use it. No matter where you are, I will answer. Thank you, matriarch, Jiwoo said, genuinely touched. Thank you, Jiwoo, Yuna replied, for saving my daughter, for teaching us humility, for showing us that being advanced does not mean being superior. The next morning, Jiwoo sat in the pilot seat of his ship, running through pre-flight checks. Hana sat in the co-pilot seat, wearing simple travel clothes instead of her royal robes. She looked nervous and excited. Ready? Jiwoo asked. Ready, Hana confirmed. The ship lifted off smoothly, rising through the purple sky of Velthara Prime. Below, in the palace courtyard, Yuna watched them go. She raised one hand in farewell, and Hana waved back through the window. As they cleared the atmosphere and engaged the faster-than-light drive, Jiwoo felt something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. Not just for himself, but for the galaxy. If a Veltharan princess and a human cargo pilot could become friends, if two species that had misunderstood each other could find common ground, then maybe there was hope for peace. Where are we going first? Hana asked, watching the stars stretch into lines around them. There is a human colony world called New Beijing, Jiwoo said. They need medical supplies and the pay is decent. It is a working colony, nothing fancy. People there still struggle with basics like clean water and stable power. It will be very different from what you are used to. Good, Hana said. I am tired of elegant and easy. Show me real life, Jiwoo smiled. Real life it is. As the ship traveled through the darkness between stars, Jiwoo thought about everything that had happened. He had gone to Velthera Prime expecting to drop off a rescued princess and leave. Instead, he had changed history. The Veltharan Confederacy would now treat humanity as equals. It was a small step. But small steps eventually became journeys. He looked at Hana, who was studying the navigation charts with intense focus, asking questions about human colonies and trade routes. She was learning, growing, becoming something new, not just Veltharan, not just royal, something more. Maybe that was what the galaxy needed. People willing to cross the barriers between species, to learn from each other, to see past the labels of advanced and primitive, superior and inferior.